Welcome to another episode of Beyond Sunday, where we keep it real with faith and life, because as you all know, life be lifing, as we always do. We always do it with myself and Pastor Thomas. So, you ready for this?
I'm ready, man. Let's do it.
All right. We've kind of been talking off camera, and he was about to go ahead and just fill my life with a whole bunch of stuff, but we're going to get into this anyway. We're talking about work-life balance. Now, I know many a times before we kind of had these kind of conversations kind of like hitting in different episodes and so on and so forth. So we're really going to get into it now. I actually want to start off with this one question here. What's the one thing that you do when you know you're tired, but you just keep pushing anyway?
The one thing that I do when I know that I'm tired and I keep pushing through is usually keep working. It's one thing that I usually do. Like, I don't usually slow down working. When I know that I'm tired, I usually tend to work harder.
Is that a problem? Like, isn't that the biggest issue of the continuing to work even though you're tired, or even is that something that in culture we've done or we've trained ourselves to do?
I think it's something that we probably have trained ourselves to do, right? So rather than to slow down, to take a break, to rest, we just try to push a little bit harder. Especially we try to push a little bit harder with the idea that when we get to the end of whatever we're working on, we'll take a break. But the truth of the matter is we usually don't, right? We usually keep on pushing. So rather than stop and take a break, I'm more likely to keep working harder.
Yeah, that seems to be like me. A lot of times I do keep working harder. I don't know. I guess that's a trait that I've had since undergrad, right? So, because when I was in undergrad, like I was in everything. I was in marching band, I was in jazz band, I was in the fraternity, I was the recording secretary, I was the step master, I had a job, I was doing all of these different things, and I think that's just something that is carried over as I've become an adult. So to the point to where if I take a break, right, I feel like I should be doing something. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's something that I grew up with, but I do think it's a part of culture because we talk about it all the time in culture, right? Mm-hmm. Like I work when I'm dead mindset. Right. And is that a great mindset to have?
No, I mean, I think at some point we reach a point of toxic productivity where it's becoming toxic to our relationships and our ability to function, our creativity, our ability to really do probably deeper type of work where we are required to think, strategize, pay attention to detail, things like that. So I don't think it doesn't work for us a long time. And actually, there's no biblical precedent for that.
Mm. If your week had a soundtrack, what song would it be?
It probably would be Dolly Parton's "Working 9 to 5."
9 to 5. I don't know the rest of it, but I just know that part. But yeah, okay. Mine would probably be, what's the Bruno Mars song? Is it called the Lazy song?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that would be me. I don't feel like doing anything. That's
you don't feel like doing anything?
I don't feel like it, but I got to. It's a lot of stuff I got to do, but I just don't feel like doing anything. All right. What's one quote unquote pastor problem that proves that you need to take a break sometimes?
Pastor problem that proves that I need to take a break. I think one of the things is anything that oftentimes deals with, personal crisis that people deal with. Because in the role of a pastor, a lot of times I have to switch between things. Like I can be in the middle of a strategic planning meeting and switch to a situation where there is an immediate crisis in somebody's life, and then need to switch back to working through a wedding that's coming up, right? So switching between those things. And a lot of times emotionally, those things are very draining and exhausting. And so those are times when I probably need to take more of a break in between switching between those two things.
So now you kind of open my brain up a little bit here, because when you're in those particular moments, and I really understood the definition of this word last night when I was on the phone with the Browns. Does that feel like imposter syndrome at some points?
There's a little bit of fake it until you make it sometimes in that, because it takes a little while for you to catch up, right? So you're coming out of this crisis situation and you're switching to, like, in my years as a pastor, I've literally gone from a funeral to a baby shower to a wedding, like all in the same day, right? And I've worked with somebody at a funeral and then gone straight to the baby shower, and you're really switching gears. One thing is about death, the other thing is literally about life, right? And then the next thing is about new beginnings and life and all that stuff, all in the same day. And you're smiling, but emotionally you're still back with this family who's dealing with the loss of a loved one, and you're having to smile and be excited about this. And you are, in a sense, but your emotions haven't caught up to that. And so by the end of the day, like, you can be worn out.
So, and you saying from an emotional standpoint, right? But can spiritually that kind of mess with you too?
I mean, yeah, spiritually it can be heavy. Like, it can be a lot. Like, always, anytime you're dealing with mortality, you're dealing with death, you know, you can have those situations. I've had situations where the funeral has been with for an infant or a child, and I've gone straight from that, to, oh, we need to sit down and do a budget meeting. Like, literally leaving from that, going to the next thing. And that's very hard. It's very spiritually, emotionally taxing.
I never thought about it from that position. I know for me, from a production standpoint, when I know I've missed marks that I generally would catch, because on a normal basis, if I'm fixing audio, getting pro presenter, getting lights, these big things, but then Keisha will come up to me and be like, "Hey man, you forgot to put this in," and I'll be like, "My bad." The small thing, and that's when I know that I probably am tired. I probably need to take a break. I generally don't, but I know that that's when, in my role, I probably.
Well, I think for me, the key indicator is my filter breaks. It breaks down and stops working. Like, I usually operate with a pretty decent filter on, like, okay, when I'm in situations, here's how I need to respond. Here's how I need to communicate. I need to think this through. Like, if it was a light switch on my filter, it's like the light switch just goes off and that filter stops and it's not working. And it's in those moments that I go, oh yeah, I need to take a break, because, like, I'm just saying whatever
like
comes to mind.
Your apron and grass moment. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. So it's it's like, okay, yeah, that's not good. So my filter not working.
Yeah. I don't know. I think my years of being a teacher have kind of put me in a place where I just kind of know how to suppress it. I've had moments where I've wanted to, very much so. In education, I don't think I've had it being in. I've had it being in production. I have. I tailor it really well. But I think also that may be problems on the other side because I hold it in so much.
Yeah, that can be. Repression can be a problem for sure.
Yeah. And from what I've been told when I was younger, that can manifest into a real health problem.
It can. It turns into issues with your heart, high blood pressure, cortisol levels running high. So, yeah, all kinds of issues.
All right. So I need to learn to tell everybody what I'm feeling right when I feel it. Do you think our generation struggles more with rest or purpose?
I probably would say, you say generation. Man, that's interesting. Generationally, I'd almost have to say it'd be different by generation. Fair. Right? In terms of what's prioritized and where the struggle is. I would say I don't do very well with rest. I do even worse with the concept of relaxation. So, I've had to work through the concept and idea of what is a theology of rest, like what biblically, what is God's word on rest, and what does that really mean, and how do I apply that to my life? Because that means that if I'm not resting, then I'm depending primarily on my own strength to do things, which puts me in a position to, be walking in a place of rebellion towards God. It opens up that door, where I'm not depending on Him, depending on my own strength. I'm no longer looking to Him to do things. I'm looking to work with Him on things or work for Him on things. And so I've started to see a bigger problem with it. in terms of rest.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because I feel like even me, like when I get more rest, I feel more connected to him. Mm-hmm. The less rest I get, I feel like I'm putting him on the back burner.
Yeah, because something has to give, right? And it ends up being my relationship with him.
Yeah,
right. That ends up being the thing that has to give.
Yeah, and I can tell in those moments. So yeah, I don't think I'm poor at it, but I know I need to be better at it. If that makes sense,
right?
Could you safely say that this generation has no problem with rest? Like this current generation that we in, these young kids, I just feel like they like rest.
I think the current generation prioritizes rest because they have seen the way that previous generations have handled the idea of working constantly with very little, if any, rest. And so I think they are better able to prioritize it than we are.
So, and that's I don't disagree, but I'm curious as to how that works in this particular world, in this culture, right? Because like my generation, your generation are really the ones who are mostly in control of most things, right? Our mindset is we don't necessarily always prioritize rest.
Right.
This younger generation prioritizes rest. Mm-hmm. So we put our ideology into them, and it makes them seem like they're wrong because they prioritize rest where we don't. Mm-hmm. So, and it almost makes it seem as though they don't know or don't want to work or they don't want to do things to better themselves.
Right.
So do you think that that's clashing right now in our culture?
I mean, I think there is definitely some stress and some clash there, but I think we're looking at it the wrong way. I think we're presuming that they are not wanting to work. I think that's the wrong presumption. I think they don't want work to be the primary central thing that they do all the time. They truly want balance. They want there to be more opportunity and time for them to explore the things that they're interested in, their own hobbies, interests, rest, relationships, all that, versus working. We tend to put work first, and then whatever's left over after work, that's what we will devote time to. But work always comes first.
You think eventually that culture is going to shift because when they get older, they're going to put in place their ideologies into everything?
I mean, I think that's what we tend to see with generations as they come. Like certain generations, certain things pick up. Not all things, but some things will pick up. I think a balance, a better balance will start to happen because of it, because there will be a different focus. I think we started to see some of that during the period of COVID, where people, when they started to work remotely, they started, I think, beginning to feel that they could have a little bit better balance over their life, a little bit better control over
a lot more babies.
Working and then being able to also spend time on other things. And so I think, COVID gave a peek into that opportunity to be able to do that and really pursue that more. And I think it's something that people have started to say is important a lot more than they did before, I believe.
Yeah, and I will say this, as having kids, one of the things that I know happens a lot now is like homework is not a thing. Mm-hmm. Like kids don't be having homework like that. Like my oldest, because she's in middle school, 8th grade, she'll have homework. Mm-hmm. Like my elementary school kids, they don't have no homework. They don't never have no homework ever. And it's weird because I was used to, we got to have something tangible that's going to come home with us, that's going to enforce the lesson that we learned for that day.
Sure.
Like now, nah.
But also, I mean, think about it for a second. Even for educators, homework is more work for them. I mean, because they have to turn around and grade it. So
Facts.
Enter the grades in. So I think there's more work. But when it comes to balance, and you talk about your kids, like we don't usually, it was not my experience growing up. And I don't know that I hear very many parents talk about it now in terms of teaching your children to rest, to relax. We talk a lot about a work ethic and wanting our kids to have good work ethic in school, good work ethic if they're doing extracurricular activities, but not necessarily a whole lot of conversation about what it means to rest. To me, what it means to get somewhere and sit down and like really just sit down and do nothing and to just exist and to just be without the need of some type of stimulation or productivity.
I don't even think kids know how to do that. I'm just saying, like,
that's my point.
I'm saying like built to do that, right? Like I can tell my kids, hey man, go sit down. They don't want to sit down. They want to jump off the walls. They want to go outside. They want to do something different.
Right. Okay. So then when do you teach them what it means to rest?
Go to sleep.
And you said kids aren't built like that. So would you assume that it is an American culture, Western culture thing, or do you think that's culturally all over the world?
I think it's culturally all over the world. I think kids just want to move around. Like I'm looking at my son right now, my youngest son. He's crawling. Like he's not wired to just sit. Mm-hmm. As they get older, that's just how they're naturally wired. They want to move. Now, I'm not saying that they have to have a tablet in front of their face or they got to go do X, Y, and Z, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know if they're wired to just sit. I think we're taught to sit in school.
Wired versus nurture, I think, is two different things. Nature versus nurture. Like, it's possible to be able to nurture. So the question becomes, how do you nurture your kids? Because if what you're saying follows, then that would mean you wouldn't nurture your kids in terms of work. And parents do it all the time, nurturing kids to work. Pick up behind yourself, pick up your things, take care of your things, help out around the house, put that in the trash, put your plate here. So we nurture them to be able to do those things. Mm-hmm. I think my point is that we don't usually include resting as part of it.
But I mean,
you think about the typical suburban life, especially, right? The typical suburban life, or even urban life for that matter, when you start talking about kids, it's constantly go, go, go. We get up, we go. After school, we're doing things until we finally get home. There may be 30 minutes, there may be an hour in there where you don't have a whole lot to do before it's time to go to bed and get that started over again. And we do that constantly. And the only concept of rest that we may have is if there's a family vacation involved.
Well, I guess, and I think that's the thing, right? Like defining what rest is, right? Because when I was younger, my mom was come home, take off your school clothes, put on your play clothes, and go outside and play. Don't come back till the street lights come on. So for me, that was just fun. I don't. So for the average, I mean, for me, that looks like.
And so today, do you know how to rest?
I see. So that's the difference. I know how to rest. This goes back to the conversation we were having off camera. I know how to rest. I don't think I am in a place where I can, if that makes sense, right? Like you looking at me weird. I'm saying I know how, I want to, but I don't feel like I'm in a place where I can.
So then your life is a marathon with no breaks. It's a constant marathon. There's no end. There's no beginning. There's just running.
I feel like it. Maybe that's just a feeling.
Correct. On point. 100%.
No, we're not doing this. I said maybe it's just a feeling.
All right. It is a feeling. You said it several times. It's a feeling.
How?
You said it was a feeling.
No, I'm asking you, how do you like, you're declaring that what I said is accurate. So how is it a feeling?
No, I said
how do you know it's a feeling?
I'm declaring that you've said it's a feeling. A feeling doesn't necessarily mean that thing is 100% factual. Oftentimes, because we're close on our own lives, it's hard to see the opportunities that we have to be able to take advantage of rest or to set boundaries or expectations to rest. Because what we've done is we've set an expectation to the opposite. We've set an expectation that we're always going to be on, we're always going to be available, and we're always going to work. So people have come to depend on that. And so as they come to depend on that, then we take that on and we have to live up to that expectation because we've created it, versus resetting the expectation, which, if you remember in our conversation off camera, that's what we were saying. Got to reset expectations.
Right. But in resetting expectations, that also can cause more stress, because the original expectation is people are expecting you to be this. You tell them I'm no longer this. That creates turmoil because now they're like, oh, so you don't want to do this no more. You don't want to give me this, or you don't want to go there, or you just want to stop doing that.
Yeah, I do. I mean, sometimes that's the answer though, isn't it? I mean, could that not be the answer? Like, all things that we want to do and are doing are not necessities and they don't always add up to true productivity. Like they can just be mediocre. They could be not unnecessary. They could be a complete waste of time. Sometimes I think what we've done is we made ourselves so important in our own eyes that we can't even begin to make room for what God can do if we just get somewhere and sit down.
Okay. What's the difference between grind culture and God's calling?
Oh, wow. I mean, that's a great question. I mean, I think grind culture is very focused on grinding out and producing. Like, what can I produce? What am I producing? And what is the fruit of what I'm producing? I think God's calling is something completely different in the sense that what God calls us to is oftentimes very, very relational, and it's also fruitful supernaturally in terms of what's produced can only be produced by Him and not by my own efforts. I think grind culture is really focused on what can I produce in my own efforts. And grind culture can be a part of Christian life, right? We will sometimes bring that in, and we're truly trying to work and see what we can produce. What can we see of our own action and our own effort versus what can I join God in? God's calling is about God is calling me to join Him in a specific work so that He does the work, not that I do the work.
Can grind culture also be coupled with God's calling?
I guess it depends on how you're looking at grinding. Does that mean that there's certain work that we grind and that we're doing at the particular time? In my opinion, when we start talking about grind culture is very individually focused. It's focused on what I'm able to produce versus what God is producing through me.
I understand.
Right. So I think it would be hard to cross those two things over without self getting in the way.
Can you have grind culture in the church? Like, is that possible?
I think it's possible to have grind. I mean, that's essentially churches that are a church culture that is grinding out a fruitfulness based upon their own efforts, not really the work of God, not them joining God in His work in that particular body and how He wants to work. If we think about the work, when we look at the ministry of Christ and we look at what Christ does in His ministry, a lot of His work was slow, intentional, deliberate, and focused on smaller groups. It wasn't necessarily focused on larger groups, like 2, 3, 5, 8 people at a time. Did He preach to large crowds? Yes, but that intentional, deeper discipleship work was always done in small groups.
When we don't rest, do you think it's a trust issue with God?
100%.
You didn't even think about it.
Didn't have to stop to think about it.
So if I don't rest, that means that I don't trust God to do.
Resting reminds us of a dependence upon God. When you think of the concept of the Sabbath, especially as God establishes the Sabbath in the book of Genesis, it was not really because God Himself needed to rest. It was really about teaching us in part about our dependence upon Him for all things. Resting means that I rest and I cease from my own work. I'm stopping my own work and my own effort in what I'm doing. And I'm in a position of being reminded that everything that I have and my ability to work is all dependent upon my relationship with God.
So when we rest, right? So I want you to give me an example here. Resting. If you could define what resting looks like, what would that look like?
I think it's ceasing from the have tos, ought tos, and should tos.
Okay. So give me an example of what that looks like, let's say in your world.
I mean, I think it's where we cease from doing paid work, unpaid work, and it's really an opportunity to focus on relationships. We're focused on relaxing, focus on renewing ourselves, things that we need to do for that, but not focused on any particular work. Like, I think in our culture, a lot of times what we tend to do is we take a vacation to take care of personal business. It's not really a vacation. So I take time off to go to the dentist. I take time off to go to the doctor. When we start talking about true rest, I'm not doing any of that. Like, I'm taking off and I'm ceasing from unpaid work. I'm ceasing from paid work to just relax or to pour into relationships or to pour into myself. To me, that's really what it looks like. So if I want to sit and read, I sit and read. I don't have an agenda that has to be met. I don't have a time constraint in that period that I'm resting to do something specific. Maybe I take a nap. Maybe I don't. Maybe I have a meal with a friend where we're just talking, somebody that I'm pouring into, somebody that pours into me.
You said have tos, got tos, and should tos, right?
Right.
So if I declare that I'm going to rest, but I take my kids to, let's say, Disney World, my brain, I'm thinking, I got to take my kids to Disney World because I got to get them out the house.
That's work.
Really?
Isn't it?
I don't know. That's why I'm shocked, right? Because like, wouldn't the experience of doing that and spending time with your kids be like enjoyable and
It could be
fruitful in some type of way?
Could be.
So then how is that lack of rest?
Well, I think we're putting two things together. A vacation doesn't always mean rest to everybody. When we start talking about a vacation, using that vacation, there's a lot of emotional, physical, mental energy that would go into a vacation at Disney World. And while it would be fun, that's not the same as resting. Like our concept, and I think what you're pointing out is something that's important, is that the way we define and see rest probably needs to be evaluated. How many times have we experienced or have we heard people say they go on vacation and need a vacation from the vacation?
That's pretty normal,
right? They go on vacation because they've expended a lot of energy, effort, and they didn't really rest. They didn't really relax. They had should tos, ought tos, and have tos during that entire period of time, and so it was unpaid work in that sense, and not that it wasn't good for relationships that they have, but it wasn't necessarily restful.
Yeah, I mean, when just listening to you talk, I'm really thinking about the last time, if we use that, the last time I really went on a vacation and rested was a while ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah,
it's been a while.
And those are not the primary vacations that we have, right? Our vacations usually have an itinerary, an agenda. People say, I'm going on vacation, I'm going to a family reunion. And that can be good for relationships and that can be good to see people, but there usually is something that you're expending. There's something you're pouring out. The concept and idea of rest in the way I'm understanding it and I'm looking at it from a biblical perspective is really about the opportunity of, rather than pouring out, is being poured into in that period of time of really resting. Even when Jesus told the disciples after the things that they had done, he tells them at one point, let us go to the side, let us rest, right? And they went away and they rested. Like they weren't pouring out anymore. They weren't doing anything. They just ceased from all of that. And that's what I'm beginning to think of more. Like there should be certain periods of time in your life when you're just resting.
How often do you think those periods should be? Every day, every week, once a month?
I think you should have a rest at some point every day.
I mean, like everybody sleeps, at least hopefully.
I'm not talking about sleep.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure, I wanted to make that clear. So every day,
right?
You think that there should be a moment or a point of rest?
I do. Let me say something that's probably, I'm gonna mess with you a little bit, and it's not really controversial, but I'll make the joke and say that it is that many of us live in a constantly overstimulated state.
Yes, right? Absolutely agree.
Like, let that sit for a minute. Constantly overstimulated. We need periods of time where we can rest so that our minds, bodies are able to even process. Like if we think about all of the information that we take in a given day in our current world and our society, it's no wonder that we're overstimulated and we have a lot of anxiety. We have a lot of other emotions and things that we wrestle with. It's only through just taking the time to be able to process and disconnect from that enough for the body to physically be able to catch up before we even talk about re-engaging in anything else. But we don't tend to do that. So going back to my example we talked about earlier about the parent, who wakes the kids up, the stimulation starts immediately for everybody, all the way through the school day, all the way into after school activities, all the way into the evening, all the way into the time that we go to bed. And the only period of time when they're potentially not getting any stimulation is when you sleep. I mean, even adults, that's the only time that you're not experiencing some form of constant stimulation. In my thinking, there needs to be periods throughout the day where we slow down that stimulation or stop that stimulation. 30 minutes, an hour, like whatever works for us.
What does that look like with kids? And the reason why I'm asking that is kids be kidding. So as a person who got 4 of them, trust me, kids be kidding. So how do you prioritize your own personal rest when you got kids? Because the kid would be like, Daddy, Daddy, can we? Daddy, can we? In your moment when you're trying to rest.
I mean, I think it's part of nurturing, right? So you nurture that environment and you nurture them to the point where they're able to do that based on their ability to understand. I get that developmentally, sometimes they can't, but you nurture that as much as possible, especially as they get older, so that you build in this rhythm. Like, what is the rhythm of our lives? I think we allow everything else to dictate the rhythm of our lives, and we don't dictate the rhythm. And so because we don't dictate the rhythm, we don't end up with a healthy rhythm. Like, we just end up with whatever life has decided, whatever the circumstances have determined, when we always had the power to respond to that. Again, I go back to my example of Jesus and the disciples. Could they have pushed on from where they are and kept on going? In our culture, we would have. But he said, no, let's stop. Let's go to the side and let's rest, right? He did all this in 3 years. Like, he rested several times when you read the Gospels in a 3-year period. And we won't.
But yet we continue to say we're trying to be more like Jesus.
We say that. Or we tell ourselves the constant lie is that I'll rest after this thing.
Yeah.
But there's always another thing after the thing. So if rest is never on your list of to-do or your list of priorities, then it's not going to happen. There's no reason for it to happen because it's not on the list. It's just not there.
You're going to keep putting it off.
Yeah, you just keep pushing it off.
Or like they say, when you don't write something down or you don't truly plan for it, it just becomes an idea that you just keep pushing back.
Right. Yeah. I saw an article recently that talked about one of the things that went away in childhood was it used to be in kindergarten, there were naps.
Nap times?
There was nap times.
Man, I miss naps.
And that's been
taken away. Yeah.
It's been taken away.
Yeah, my daughter, she was upset when she got to kindergarten because pre-kindergarten she was still hitting them nap daddies, and now we was like, yeah, we don't need your nap mat no more because you don't get no rest no more. She was upset. She was trying to figure out why I don't get no more naps. Yeah, but then she get 2 recesses, so I don't know. I guess that was the trade-off. You lose a nap, but you get a recess.
I mean, all in our effort to try to put more instruction into the day and try to put more things into the day, and I think to your point, there's this concept of diminishing returns that even the more we work, the more we push, the less productive we come. And so when you think about it, when you've had the opportunity to rest, you had the opportunity to slow down the stimulation, it really gives you the opportunity to come back and be more productive. So I'll use case in point, like last week we spent time at a conference here locally, and it was a time where we weren't doing our normal ministry activities, weren't trying to follow through our schedules, what we normally do. And that time away gave the opportunity to come back and be more productive, right? Because instead of pouring out, we were being poured into during that time so that we could come back and be more productive. And even though there were things that needed to be done while we were gone, we still were able to come back and pick up and, do the things that needed to be done, handled immediately and be more productive at it.
That's true. True. I can tell you right now, I'm still filled. From that. So I don't disagree with that. So basically, every week we need to do a conference now.
Every week, yeah.
Every week we got to do a conference.
Going back to my point, though, I think about your kids, about you, like you model what you want your kids to pick up and learn, and I think modeling that as they get old enough and developmentally, what does that look like? I think it depends on what it looks like for your family, like. Hey, we're going to take the next 30 minutes. We're going to shut everything off. Or we're going to take 10 minutes. We're going to take 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is. We're going to shut everything off. And everybody's just going to sit and we're just going to chill out for a minute. You can read a book. You can do this. You can do that. You can lay down. You can do, you can do whatever, but we're just going to do this for this period of time. And beginning to build that rhythm. And you'd be surprised. There are some parents that have that where they give their kids those options. You can do these things, but all those things are surrounded around the concept and the idea of rest. You know it right now with your own kids. If your kids, the younger ones especially, if they haven't had a nap and you run them all day long, they get grumpy.
They cranky.
Yeah,
they cranky.
Yeah, it's real hard.
But see, my oldest are like that's why I was laughing when you said that, because I be like, all right, we're gonna shut everything down for like 30 minutes and we gonna chill, not have to focus on something. I'm telling you now. My son is gonna come to me about 5 minutes later. Daddy, I'm bored. Can I go do something? Like can I play PlayStation? Can I do something?
But what a wonderful opportunity to help him work through boredom. That's a wonderful opportunity because boredom is a potential fact of life.
Right.
And one of the things that one of the reasons why people struggle with boredom because it feels like depression to them.
I don't struggle with boredom, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it feels like to be bored feels like depression. And don't we need to teach him how to deal with that emotion or that feeling of being bored? Like there's nothing wrong with not having anything to do.
Well, I mean, as a parent, like we have told them that all the time, right? It's like there's nothing wrong with just being bored. Sometimes you just got to sit in it. Give your body time to just relax, or so on and so forth. As a kid, he's going, I'm still bored.
But what we see is that, okay, my son is dealing with a lot of stimulation, like constantly, and feels that he needs to always be stimulated by something. It's not always true. Like we have to build a sense of being able to be content. Like the idea of contented, I'm just okay just being. Think about for a second yourself, people you know around you. We struggle to just be. Like we can't just, I'm going to just go sit here and I'm just going to be. Like people can't do that.
But I agree, and I also don't think that you're wrong. I think that the reason why that is that goes back to the original conversation of the fact that we've just built that culture of that, and then most of the people that we congregate around are within our generation, and so that's the generation that we grew up with. When I talk to my former students and all that kind of and a lot of them, and it was awesome. I got to be able to hang out with some of them this past weekend. But a lot of them, when I'm looking at their Instagrams and all that, they are like hanging out, just having good times a lot. And then then they just they go to work. And so when I talk to them, they prioritize that rest. It's us that's the problem because that's not a thing for us. So I think that's just cultural.
But I would even challenge you to say that even looking at your students and what you see in social media, those curated moments or whatever, however we want to put it, the assumption that that's rest may not necessarily be true. That's our perspective on what it looks like. I don't know that that's necessarily rest.
I mean, they be looking like they have a good time. Nothing they be focused on. But they be taking trips or just be hanging out with each other.
Hold on a second. Let's think about that for a second. Okay, so let's take that a little bit deeper. If a person is an extrovert, for example, they may feel very renewed, rejuvenated, refreshed in being in a social environment. Some of those people that you're looking at could be introverts. To an introvert being in a situation like that, there's an emotional effort and an energy that they have to put out. They may be enjoying it, but for them,
they have to put in work to get to that point.
They have to put in work to be in that point. So we may be assuming that for them that's rest, but for them, their true rest may be when they go and they have their time to just be themselves and do whatever things they enjoy in a singular fashion. The assumption that because people are in this environment where they're not working, socializing means rest is not rest for everybody.
That's fair. Because and the reason why that is because I that's a personal thing for me. Like I've realized over my life, I'm an introvert. I don't like people like that. I don't like being around people. But the funniest thing is I've been a teacher, I've been in band, I've been a DJ, I've been a club promoter, and I've always had to be around people. So I always had to turn something on in order to be in those spaces.
Yeah, introverts can definitely turn things on. It doesn't mean that they can't. It's just that they probably feel they usually need periods of time
where I just need to be.
They need to be by themselves and to kind of recharge and recover from that.
Yeah, that's me. And but it took me. I'm in my 40s now. It took me till I was like 36, 37 to figure that out. Because I was always like I said, I grew up always on the move, always doing something.
Right.
So I thought I was an extrovert. Come to find out, I don't like people like that. I don't like being around people like that. Not in this, like I don't like people, but I'm just saying like in large crowds and groups and stuff. I just did it because that was part of what I knew to do. That was my life. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, I think, when we talk about the work-life balance, really, I think the key to it is what's on the other side of work. On the other side of work has to be rest, and then what does that really look like? Like, how are we defining rest? Like, what is our position, our philosophy, our theology on rest in terms of what it should look like in our lives? And rest should not be like this separate little add-on thing over here that we just go, oh, it's something I get to when I can. No, it has to be incorporated.
All right, a couple more and then we get out of here. Has God ever had to sit you down?
Oh yeah,
How?
100%.
Give us one of the times when God had to sit you down, force you to rest.
You know, it happened when I took my sabbatical last year. So after there was a period of time leading up to when I took my sabbatical where there was a very long stretch for me. So we had gone into that period of COVID, and I was preaching to a camera, dealing with illness, dealing with people being, not my own, but dealing with people around me being sick, dealing with the uncertainty of just where life was going to be after COVID.
Was that your time doing the back too, your back situation?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I had an issue with my back. And it was also a period of time where, we ended up starting the building project. Yeah. So I had that, and I was working on a doctorate. So I was doing all those things, and the building process was just constant and heavy because it was still during the COVID period. So workers here were having to take precautions. Workers who were coming into the building, sometimes entire crews would be out, which was slowing down the process. We were still trying to operate in our old facility while building this new facility. We brought everybody back in person. So we were taking precautions, bringing everybody back in person, trying to reestablish. And the whole time I'm trying to lead a family, trying to lead myself, trying to lead a congregation, under the weight of kind of this pandemic and this expansion that we were doing. Long story short, is by the time I got to the end of the building project, I was barely making it. Like Sunday in, Sunday out, I was barely just getting through. And so I didn't take any time off during that period. Like that whole pretty much 5-year period, I didn't really take any time off. So I was like, I got to do something. Like, I just can't. It was getting to the point where I was just like getting up on Sunday mornings and I'm like, Lord, I don't know what you're going to do because you're going to have to figure this out because I don't have any energy to do it. And after church, I'll come home and just like crash. I just crashed. And so I had reached the point where it was like, I don't even know if I can keep doing this. Like, that's the first time in 20-something years, I was like, I don't even know if I can keep doing this. Like, this is too much. So then that's when the decision to, take the sabbatical came. And then I took 12 weeks off, which was the first time I'd ever done that.
And everything was fine.
Everything was fine. The church was fine. Came back, everything was fine.
So, RFBC fam, you heard it here first. PT was talking about leaving. All right. But no, I actually remember that time. And the reason why I remember that time is because I told my wife, I said, man, something's wrong with Pastor Thomas.
Oh, yeah. Something wrong.
I remember because it was like conversing with you was different. Mm-hmm. You were like real quick, like there was no life in your conversation. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of like, yeah.
I didn't have the energy. Like, I literally didn't have the emotional energy to try to really invest in anything, anybody, anything, because I was just I had to get on to the next thing. Like, I had to just I was just trying to keep one foot in front of the other. And the decision to take the sabbatical was 6 months before the sabbatical. So I had to get through that.
You had to get to that time.
Yeah, I had to get to that time. So, and that was hard to kind of even keep pushing through there because we were moving and then we were trying to get used to a new facility and just all the things that went along with that. And it was all good stuff, thanks be unto God. Everything that was happening was good. It was positive stuff. It was just a lot. It was just a whole lot.
I like I said, I remember that time. Your demeanor, your energy was different. And I knew it had to be a lot, I didn't know any other the personal things, but I definitely remember old building. We got pipes hanging down, and we were trying to not record the pipes, but we were like, well, ain't nothing we could do about it. Then they ripped the cameras out, and we were like, all right, we ain't got a camera, so we got to figure this out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a lot. I definitely remember that time. But You made it through. You made it, got to the 6 months and got to the sabbatical, but God said, hey, all right, sit down somewhere. How can we show people that rest is spiritual obedience and not laziness?
Yeah, I mean, I think that really comes from, teaching, like what we teach in church, and also what we model in church, because churches sometimes we can also be guilty of doing the very thing that people are doing in their personal lives by having one thing after the next just constantly going on, whether that thing is fruitful or not, right? And just having activities where we're grinding, right, using that example, because it's a tradition or it's something that we've always done or it's something that we did 3 years ago and that thing was great, but now we just keep doing it and maybe we shouldn't be. So I think churches can be guilty of that. So I think we can model that and teach that. I think as a leader, I can model that and teach that, about the obedience to God to take rest. Some of my most impactful times with the Lord has been during a period of rest when I just disconnected from, like all of the stimulus and spent some time it could just be reading something, reading scripture or whatever, and then blocking out everything else that's going on around me. And those times have always reminded me of the significance of taking time to rest. Now, I will say I am not the best at it. So when I sit up here and we had this conversation, it's convicting for me too, because I'm just not.
Talking to yourself.
I'm definitely talking to myself. I will say I think in 2026, you will definitely see some changes from me in that regard. Because when we start talking about longevity and our ability to continue doing the things that we do, nobody wants to work to a point where you just break yourself down, so that if you have plans or hopes of retiring at some point, you too broke down to even enjoy retirement because you've worked yourself to a point where physically, mentally, emotionally, you ain't got nothing left to even enjoy.
That's a lot. That's a word. Anything else you got before we?
Yeah, I got something else.
Okay, go ahead.
Here's the thing.
This ain't conviction towards me, is it? Or are you talking to everybody?
I'm talking to everybody.
Okay, all right, cool. I just want to make
sure. So I think it's
trouble.
important that we make time and be very conscious and intentional about putting rest into our lives. Like, I don't think it's something that we can just take for granted. And rest is a part of good self-care, right? And so I think there's a part of it where rest can be a sacrifice too. It's obedience, but it's also a sacrifice because we are potentially sacrificing some productivity to be able to slow down for a little bit and to take some time so that we can come back and be more efficient and maybe even more productive in what we're doing. But I don't think rest is a negotiable. And then we need to stop treating it as a negotiable. It is a non-negotiable, obedient, loving response to an all-wise, faithful God whom we can depend on for everything that we need and who will provide everything we need up to and including our rest.
You heard it here first. Prioritize your rest. It is a responsibility for you to have rest. You heard it here first from Pastor Thomas himself. He's going through it. He's convicting himself. We all being convicted in this room, and you should be convicted right now. So put all your thoughts inside of the comment section. We would love to be able to see them and read them. Outside of that, we don't have anything else, man. This has been great. Prioritize your rest. As a matter of fact, right after this, once we shut the camera off, I'm going to go take me an hour nap. We just gonna do it. We're just gonna shut it all down. Keisha, you taking a nap too. Get off the computer. I'm talking to her. She behind the camera. All right. Outside of that, don't forget, man, this is not just a Sunday talk. This is an everyday walk, and we will see you all next time.